So today we are going to take our journey with the web app and the APIs a step further, and we are going to ask, why do APIs respond with objects or with JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, and how we can build our own object. So first we need to start by understanding what is an object. So simply JavaScript objects, which is the main language we are using with AppScript and with receiving our APIs, is we define it using let, which is a word that we define let, variable, constant, whatever you like, and you name it whatever name you are going to call it with. For example, I call it my object. You equal and then a curly brackets. You open and close a curly bracket. So and you put inside this curly brackets your object. The object can contain a variety of types. So it can contain integers, sentences, it can contain functions, it can contain arrays, but the beauty of the object, that's why it is used, it is human readable. This means that you put a name or a tag or a key for the data you are sending. So for example, I have a project which is API, so the project is a key. So wherever in any instance of my object I need to find the name of the project, you can call it project, you can call it project name, you will get the data which is responding or corresponding to this identified name. So that's the beauty of objects, that you have keys that is representative. Of course, you can put the keys random and it's not 1, 2, 3 or APC and so something like that, but that's not what is intended behind the objects. And that's why it's used in the JSON JavaScript object notation, that it needs to be human readable. So when you read the key, you understand what is the data corresponding to this key is revealing. So project is revealing the name of the project, for example, which is a string. We call it API. You put comma to add another item in your project. So we have a numbers, which is a numbers array. So it's an array of numbers. So that's a valid part of a project or an object, sorry. And then you can add a number, which is your key. For example, if you're having an API key or a password or something, or whatever credential you need to pass with your object. So you have a key and you can put it as a number. It accepts the object, accept all this together. After that, you can add a function. So you can add even a function or a method inside the object, and you can call it with your print object. So in any instance of this, you can define a new instance. So my object is a new instance of my object, and you can add different values to define normally as you define variables to numbers and strings and so on. You can give it a new value. That's the same with object. You can give it a new value, but there's a different method that you can access the variables inside the object with the dot notation. So you can call it my object dot project, my object dot numbers, my object dot key, and that's from outside the object itself. Here we said we can create a function, so we name it as a function, which is the definition that this is coming between the curly brackets will be a function. Simply I'll put console.log, and in the console.log I will print. This means that I will print. So whenever I call my object dot print object, it will print to the screen the console log, which is this is a string, so it will be printed as it is, like this. This is, and you put the $sign, and with the curly brackets, so this is a variable. It will take it, because I put this here and not my object, so it will take it from inside, from the variables that are defined or the values that are defined inside my object. So it will take it from this. This is my current object. Or if you're calling it from outside, you put my object dot project, and this reveals to the item element, which is project. So it will be API, it will be revealed here, and then this is API project. Okay, so that's how the object is constructed. So let's go directly to our project, and there we will apply this and see how we can now build our object from our data and send it to other parties or third parties as an object, so it will be more human readable. Let's go there directly. So that's our project. If you don't remember what you have done in the previous weeks, because we are coming weekly with new ideas, so you can build your experience with the web apps and apps script and using these methods and APIs. So you can simply see on the top here, on the right top here, you can see a link to the collection of our web apps videos. So you can see it on the top here in our video list, and you can follow one by one till you reach to this instance. For summary, to publish something on the web, so you need to use a function doGet, and E is a parameter that I can pass it as a query. When I'm calling the function, I define my sheets. I use the parameters inside the E and I use the tag, so I need to receive tag from whomever is sending me this request or calling this function. And then we created an array, and we have searched it inside our database, which we use it as our sheet. We search using a tag, and whatever data is available on the tag, we log it to an array, and then we stringify the array. We make it as a string because we need to transfer it as a string. And on the other side, if you remember in the last video, we were receiving it and using it, parsing it as its real form of an array. So now, instead of creating it as an array, we need to create it as an object. So we will see how we can make this. So simply here, instead of pushing to my results the array itself, I will mark this as a comment, and then I need to create my object. Before creating my object inside here, I can create it directly here. It's not a problem because every time you will be creating a new one, and we can keep it as array, or you can create a model. So we can add this concept how to create a template for an object or initialize an object and then use it after that. So you have the two ways. You can make it initialized outside your loop, or you can call it directly inside your loop. So I can just simply initialize it here. So let my object, as we had said, it's simply I'll open curly brackets, and then you need to put a pair, a key and a value. So my first one will be tag, you put colon, and then it will be a string. So I'll put nothing inside my string, and then you need to add comma so you can get the second one, and then date, and then semicolon. I'll initialize it with any date, so I put here new date. I'm not going to use it, just to initialize it, and then I put value 1. So that all these are keys denoting some data, so you can understand that this is my value 1, forever that is my value 1, and the last one will be my value 2. Okay, and like this I had finished initializing my object. So you can put this directly inside because I'm not going to access them directly, so we can define them as new objects. So inside here I have two ways, because I had initialized already my object outside. So I can call here my object dot tag, and this will be equal to the tag I'm using now here. So it will be equal to tag, which I used it to search. Okay, and then my object dot date. This time I need to bring it from the sheet, so I lose the range, but this time the date is the second one, so I use it +1. So I move to the next column, and then dot, I need to get the value, and then after that I have my object dot value 1. So you see it pops to you the elements inside your object. So I need value 1, and this will be equal to, this time if you remember, if you return your database, we have date, so this +1, and then time. I will not send time, I will send date because it's a mix of date and time, and then I will use value 1, value 2, so that's +2, and that's +1, +2 here, +3, +4. So I use +3 and +4 to shift the column. So like this I had already initialized it. So after initializing my object completely, I need to push then to my array. So result dot push, because that's an array, so I can push to it my object, which with the new values of your object. So if you need to test that you have done the correct work, you can make, as we said, test deployment. So I can save here, and but on test, either you send a tag as here usual, or you can make a fixed tag for your search if you need to run it from inside your apps script. So to run from inside your apps script, use the run here. You will not receive an e.parameters and a tag from outside, a query from outside. So it will give you an error if you need to run it from the apps script. We had explained this in our previous videos. Again, return to our list of videos on the web app, you will have a wealth of information about this. And also don't forget on our previous courses to join our previous courses for which is having 90% discount on Udemy now for all the apps script functions. So search text with e-parameters, and then I can call it by testing. So simply I will go to deploy, and I will try test deployment before deploying it, so I can access it from anywhere on the web. So I make copy, done, and then I pass it here. And I need a tag, make a query, so with question mark, and I put the title that I need tag to be as we were using the previous time, for example. And then you see it nicely returns all the instances of B. You can see that's an object, that's tag B and date, and it gives you the date. And that's the stringifying, because when you send the JavaScript object across as an API or across the internet, or across a request with different origins, you need to send it as a string, and it will be interpreted on the other side. So you can see that it's very nicely your objects are prepared as an object. So I will go here, then you can, if you remember, we were stringifying it here using the JSON, and we were returning it. So return, that's the beauty of the doGet. It returns an HTML. It can return as the web pages, as all the web pages we had created here, or it can return simply as a string. After I'm satisfied, simply I'm going to make a new deployment. That's sent as an object, and then I need to deploy. After deploying, I take the copy, the URL, the unified or the uniform resource location, where is this location is web app is located, and then simply I can go to totally a different account. If you remember this, we were using the previous time, I was using this function, okay, to url.fetch. I'm going to use the same, but this time I'll change it with the new, because otherwise this one would be using my old app, web app, deployed web app. Okay, and this time I will take out all this till execute, which is the new my web address. So Windows V, and it is this one. So that's the new web app address. I'm going to save it, and then and then after that, when we have the raw result, we using parse to get the JSON object, and then we display it. So we run it, and you can see nicely a list of all the objects. So it's an array of objects, and inside the object you will find the tag B and the date and so on. So you can make a loop through this result, and you can, in the loop, you can search with the tag, and searching with the tag, for example, you can access which one. So that's an array, so that's element 0 of the array, element 2 and element 1 and element 2 of the array, and which are all objects. And inside the object you can access it with the name. For example, I can rewrite here, for example, instead of accessing result, it's an array, so simply I can put here square bracket item 1, for example, of the array, and then dot, we use it with value 1, which is directly my my tag or name for this value, and I make save and run. Maybe this one was an empty one, so value 2, save and run. Okay, you can see that it brings here the value. So value 1 was an empty value, value 2 was having a value which is 2. If you need to confirm this, that was the second element of my array. I save and run again. You can see here that actually using element 1, value 1 was empty and value 2 was having the value, so it was returning correctly. So you can, like this, you can access each item in your API. We have this will be in our coming course for details about the API, how to use them and so on. So wait for us, in the coming weeks we will announce about it, and you will find the links, of course, added to our description in the box beside our coupons for discounts. Join us in the channel, subscribe and spread the information. See you in coming videos with more insights from web apps and Google Apps Script.